Alrighty, welcome everybody. Today we'll be playing another modern cube draft, and holy Planeswalkers Batman. We've got Lily, we have Ashiok, we have Jace the Mind Sculptor, and we have Teferi, Hero of Dominaria. As far as which one is best and limited, well, of course Nissa. I don't know if I said Nissa. I might have just glazed right over her. I actually think Ashiok is like quite nuts, but I think Liliana is probably highest power level. Man, I don't know. Green with Nissa is, I think, absolutely absurd. Is there anything else in this pack we should take? I don't think so. I think I'm between Liliana the Veil and Jace the Mind Sculptor right now. I don't know which one's right, but I'm gonna take Jace. If, what's his bucket, Teferi comes all the way around. Ooh, Teferi Time Raveler! We didn't have to wait that long. What am I missing in this pack by not taking other things? Pact of Negation, which I actually think is kind of good and limited in cube formats. There's a Fabled Passage, which is pretty good fixing, especially for a slower deck, which we are already planning on drafting. So we'll take Time Raveler. Let's take a look at what we got here. So we're already kind of like blue-white, which means we should probably focus on control-y things and control-y threats. We could take Obnixilis if we wanted to go Esper, but I don't see a reason to yet, and we don't have any fixing. I actually kind of like Declaration in Stone, just as good removal. Though it is a sorcery, it's not an instant. Bone Crusher Giant could be good. It's both a piece of removal and a threat. Plus, it only ever requires a commitment of single red. And there's like a Clifftop Retreat in this pack that could potentially come around. I actually think maybe I take Bone Crusher Giant. Thought Scour, Terramander, kind of meh. I'm going to go with a Bone Crusher. Alright, in this pack we have a blue-red duel, which is fantastic. There's also a Stifle Bird. How you doing, Stifle Bird? One of my favorite cards in pretty much all of Magic. And there's a Spell Pierce. I think we just take the Sulphur Falls, though. Red-blue is good, just as like a control pair in general. Hey, it's Big Chad. How you doing, Big Chad? You're definitely a control planeswalker. I'll take Chad. Chad keeps me safe. Sacred Foundry is directly on color with what we want to be doing. Fallen Shinobi is like crazy nuts, and a Braid is pretty good removal, so is Cast Out. There are a number of things in this pack on Cryptic. Ooh, Cryptic. I don't think I can take Cryptic unless I can like guarantee myself better fixing. I think Sacred Foundry is correct. Cryptic might actually be correct, but I'm going to go Sacred Foundry. City of Brass fixes all of our mana problems forever. There's also a Archangel Avacyn, which is an excellent control threat, and Glenalandra Archmage, which is also really fantastic. I'm going to take the better fixing, though. Glacial Fortress, Creature Teferi. I'm going to take the mana fixing. Alright, all the other Planeswalkers are gone. And we already got like all the fixing we need. I will take Ashiok Nightmare Muse. 4 Planeswalkers, 4 lands. We could just go 4-color Super Friends. We might not even need red at this point, but yeah, Sorin's pretty fantastic. Pact of Negation's probably the actual pick. But come on, 4-color Super Friends? How often does that happen? Clifftop Retreat over Silverblade, Terramander, and Sword? Definitely. Spell Pierce, probably pretty fantastic. Counter spells seem to be good. This is not as good because non-creature spells they're not always what's cast early in Modern Cube, because just like in Modern Cube, you tend to want to be proactive and not reactive, which is why Planeswalkers are fantastic. But I mean, like, we have like crazy Jeskai mana and already one land that can tap for black to splash these guys in. I don't think I want to play a Tempest Djinn because we don't have that many islands. Westvale Abbey's colorless, so I'm going to speculate on a Sunpetal Grove. I'm probably not playing Sunpetal Grove. Expansion Explosion could actually see some play here. Yeah, I'm probably not going to play Sunpetal Grove unless I get, like, I don't know, some crazy green fixing ramp, something like that. And an Aethersphere Harvester. Okay. Don't know that I'm playing that one either. Maybe. That was like a Heart of Kirin, it'd be like, ugh. Oh man, well, I did not expect this draft to go from 0 to 100 like it just did. Alright, Pack 2. What are we doing? So Misty Rainforest can grab exactly nothing, because we all have check lands. Colonnade is fixing in our colors, as well as a threat that is a creature. Frost Titan, also pretty fantastic. Farseek has a similar problem to Misty Rainforest, except it can actually grab Sacred Foundry. There's a Restoration Angel, which is a flash threat. I think I'm going to go Colonnade. I would like to take Frost Titan, because I think we're base blue. We need stuff to play earlier, and unfortunately, I can't take Farseek or Misty Rainforest right now. So, Colonnade it is. Alright, what do we got? We have Forked Bolt, that's early interaction. Realm Cloaked Giant is a wrath as well as a creature, which is actually really fantastic. There's a Soulscar Mage, Thing in the Ice, there's a Negate. I wish that was Mana Leak or Remand. I think we take Forked Bolt. Not a lot of decks want Realmed Cloaked Giant, even though I think this card's probably like one of the best cards for our deck. I'm going to take the early removal. Alright, what do we got? There's an Inferno Titan, a Magmatic Sinkhole, Repeal. Can't really take any of the green cards. We could take Wrath of God. Wrath of God might be pretty reasonable. I would take something like Sinkhole, but we definitely aren't delving fast. Wrath of God, I think, might be important, because we're going to need ways to reset the board and take advantage of all these Planeswalkers. So I'll take a Wrath. Not to mention our mana is just like so fantastic right now. Hollowed Fountain, it keeps getting better. There's also a Wooded Foothills, which can grab Sacred Foundry, but nothing else. Student Warfare is not really for us. Compulsive Research is really good, but I'm not going to pass it over a Hollowed Fountain, especially when we have so many check lands. Like, we're going to need typed lands pretty badly. Okay, there's a Day of Judgment in this pack, as well as a Young Pyromancer, a Roast, and a Looter Eel Core. But I'm going to take Scalding Tarn, because I feel like having perfect mana this game. Alright, we don't have green. Gargaroth would be great otherwise. Ulamog's probably a little late. Nightveil Spectre could be good. Just might be a little hard to cast. We have a lot of blue duels, though. We could take Inquisition, because we are planning on playing black. This is 4 colors. I just haven't seen like a Blood Crypt or a Watery Grave or anything yet. Could also want Dreadbore. We have no 2-mana spells right now. Yeah, I think I'm going to take Dreadbore over Inquisition. Okay. There's a Temporal Mastery, there's a Disallow, and a Venser, and a Lava Coil. Wow, how is, like, this many good cards and colors that we're playing and can play easily coming around? Temporal Mastery would definitely be a meme. It'd be hilarious with all of our Planeswalkers. Disallow might be one of the better cards. Venser is really good. We don't have a way to flicker him. We can buy him back with Teferi. Stomping Ground doesn't really fix, because we're not really playing green. I think I take Lava Coil. Counter spells are good, but like our deck is so proactive, it's not like we have flash threats and stuff we can hold up. We don't have a lot of creatures, so Aurelia's bad. Wall of Omens might actually be better than Geist for us. Geist is good when you can like suit him up with equipment or throw enchantments on him, or, you know, otherwise have ways to protect him on the board. I think I rather would just have the cantrip than a Geist, and I know some people are going to really take exception to my line of logic there, and that's fine. Pull from Tomorrow is technically a card we can play, so I'll take that. Realm Cloaked Giant came all the way around, that's another Wrath. Pestermite's a card we can cast. We almost can cast Niv Mizzet. We have an Orzhov card, a Dimir card, an Azorius card, a Rakdos card. We have lots of multicolor. You know what? I'll do it, and if the mana supports it, I'll play him. There's an Assassin's Trophy and Hinterland Harbor. Hinterland Harbor technically helps with the Niv Mizzet dream. And this is definitely a Golos deck. How did I miss Golos the first time around? We'll take an Abrupt Decay. And a Tide Hollow Sculler. Also putting in the pile of maybes. Alright, pack 3. If we're strictly on the control plan, Dream Trawler is like unbeatable if it's cast. There's a Mardu Triome, which is pretty good, because that's 2 of our primary colors and black, as well as it's fetchable off of Scalding Tarn. There's also a Marsh Flats, which we would not mind having. I'm going to take the Triome, though. Once again, I think fixing is going to be very important in this deck. Okay, we have some early game removal that could be benefited by casting a Snapcaster Mage to buy it back. There's a Path to Exile here, which I think would also be excellent removal in this deck. Chandra, Torch of Defiance. Double red might be hard. I mean, we have a lot of red fixing, so maybe not. Maybe we do take this. I think at this point, we have so many, like, game-ending things. I just want to take, like, removal counterspells. I want to take Snapcaster, but I think Path is actually more important for us. Izzet Charm and Mana Leak in the same pack, as well as a Deafening Clarion. There's a Felidar Guardian. It's too bad in all of our Planeswalkers we didn't get a Saheeli. I think Mana Leak is by far, though, the best card for us in this pack. I know it's a reactive card, and I just was talking about how proactive our deck is, but if we start getting a bunch of reactive cards like that, that'd be fantastic. Hey, another Planeswalker, and it's in our colors. There's also a Creeping Tar Pit, which is excellent fixing. I don't know how highly this Teferi is going to get picked. There's a Pyroclasm, which we could use as an early Wrath versus an aggro, but that might actually come around. Oof. Do we take the Tar Pit, or do we take Teferi? I'm gonna take Teferi. Narset? Is there any Planeswalker we're not gonna play? Narset, I think, is fantastic. And so is Urza, Thoughtseize, Electrolyze, Lightning Helix. What are people drafting? Am I in a pod with 7 players all trying to play green? Honestly, Lightning Helix is probably the best for us here. Lightning Helix or Thoughtseize. Or Journey. Something from this pack is coming around that we want, because I would even take and play Anguished Unmaking. Like, I would take almost every single card in this pack. I'm going to take Lightning Helix. Okay, Time Warp. Oh my god! Oh my god! Consecrated Sphinx, Gideon, Time Warp. What are people playing? There's a Godless Shrine here too, which I also really want. I think I gotta go Gideon. Like, not quite Big Chad. It's definitely one of the best Chads. So, Gideon, ally of Zendikar. Nahiri Approach? What is this? So the problem is with Nahiri, we don't actually have, like, a ton of... We don't have, like, a big creature to go get, like, Emrakul or Ulamog or anything. Approach is probably better, because I think we're drawing a bunch of cards, wrathing the board a ton. This gains life, helps stabilize, and literally ends the game. So I think we go Approach. Sorin Solemn Visitor is good. Spellqueller is great, but we also have a bunch of Wraths. I think I'm going to take Sorin. I think I just want to cast a Planeswalker every single turn. Is there anything wrong with that? Other than the fact people are letting me do this? You, in the comments section below, you're complicit. You started watching. There's a Karn Dream Trawler, which I'm really tempted to take, but I think I take Marsh Flats, because that gets, like, Sacred Foundry, Hallowed Fountain, the Triome, or potentially a basic Swamp, if we needed it. This is not a Winota deck. I guess we would take Stirring Wildwood for the sideboard. Collective Brutality is great, but it's not instant speed. Zealous Conscripts going late kind of worries me. I think I take the slight board wipe here with Deafening Clarion. Shivan Fire is good, but we're not playing Field. We're probably not playing Siege Gang. Neither Eidolon. I think if we were playing any of these cards, we'd be playing Doomfall, like versus a deck with Hexproof. So we want Narset, Parter of Veils, or Anguished Unmaking. Probably Narset? Question mark. Alright, All Is Dust, because it's not the meme, and Delver of Secrets in our sideboard. Alright, what are we doing? Let's take a look at what we're playing here. Okay, we'll set all of those in a pile, because I'm going to be playing each and every one of them. And look at that, we already almost have a completely reasonable and playable number of cards. I don't think we want to main deck Spell Pierce. Let's see if there's anything that's worse in this deck for main deck. Man, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 Planeswalkers. 10. Oh, this isn't okay. I think I want to drop pull from tomorrow. Yeah, I think I want to drop pull from tomorrow. I think everything else is fine. I just want 17 lands in this deck. So bring in these 10. Let's see what basic lands it wants to add. 2 of each and 1 swamp. Okay. So let's see. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 white sources, which is fantastic because we have 4 double white cards. Okay. For red, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 9 red sources, which is fantastic considering we only have 1 double red spell ever. Blue. No, I started with blue, didn't I? No, I started with white. Okay, blue. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 blue sources, which is fantastic. And then black, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sources? We're only splashing for a Dreadbore and some Sorens and Ashiok. Alright, 4-color Super Friends, 10 Planeswalkers deck. Let's go. I don't even care if this deck is horrible. I'm going to be casting Planeswalkers. Alright. Round 1, here we go. I'd love to play first. We have a Path. We might have a Dreadbore. This hand is actually kind of close to being keepable. I'm going to mulligan, though. Mana Path and Deafening Clarion. What card do I put back if I keep this? I can't put back Sacred Foundry, because then all of our other cards would come in tapped. I think I put back Clifftop Retreat, because we only have 1 double red card. So I'm going to start Colonnade, and I'm going to rely on drawing into things. Literally a third of our remaining deck is Planeswalkers. Oh, man. Okay, opponent starts Forest. Birds. Glad I kept the Wrath. I think I just play Sacred Foundry tapped. We'll leave up Path for anything scary. Yeah, like, the only Planeswalkers we didn't get were, like, the 2 huge ones in the opening pack that weren't Jace. So, alright, opponent Kodama's Reach. Sure. Getting a Plains and a Swamp. So we know they're holding a Swamp. Well, dang, I was hoping they would cast more Dorks. Alright, we draw Gideon. Not bad. I'm going to wait and get greedy with this Deafening Clarion. If they play anything too threatening, obviously Path. We're hoping to resolve Gideon next turn. Start making some Knights. Okay, opponent plays their Swamp. Chalice on 2. Okay. Opponent passes. We untap. We draw City of Brass, which is the land I would have Golosed for. Okay. Play Chad. Chad summons up his friends. Pass the turn. Okay, opponent plays a Forest. Gigantic Thing. Woodfall Primus. Taking out Gideon. Okay. That's fine. We untap. We draw bigger Chad. Okay. I'm just going to Path Woodfall Primus now. My opponent is going to untap with an extra land, but I really don't want them to do something dumb involving, like, a card that you sacrifice as an additional cost or anything like that. Alright. Opponent plays a Forest. Tons of mana for the Great Henge. Okay. We untap. We draw Expansion Explosion. So go to combat. Attack for 2. Hit our opponent down to 16. And I think I want to Golos this turn. Because if we draw a land, we can activate Golos and then likely cast 3 Planeswalkers, and life is amazing. We're going to put down the Triome. Pass the turn. Still can't believe they printed fetchable Tri-lands. It's actually something that I predicted, though they didn't do it in the way that I thought they would. Back when I was in college, 5-ish years ago, I was like, they'll probably print tri-lands that come in untapped as a way to devalue the reserve list cards so that they can get away with all of the lawsuits for promissory estoppel saying all of the cards lost so much value, but then, they'll only have to pay back what the current value is or something. I don't know. Anyway, enough of that nonsense. I don't know what I want to do here, so I'm just going to attack. We can expansion explosion for 2 if we have to. We hit our opponent for 5. Let's play Jace. I'd like to hit a land. Go brainstorming. Nice. We'll put back Sulphur Falls and Lava Coil. Play Marsh Flats. Crack Marsh Flats. I don't want to draw those cards again. We'll get a Hallowed Fountain tapped. Pass the turn. Okay, opponent gains some life. Just realized we have a potential clone spell thing here. See what our opponent casts. Master of the Wild Hunt. Alright, so my opponent gets to draw a card. Something big. Grave Titan. Alright, they get to draw another card, they make more tokens. Oh, we can control what's on top of our deck for Golos activation with Jace. That's awesome. Alright, so my opponent has a Beanstalk Giant in the exile zone. So let's untap. We draw Sulphur Falls. Didn't I shuffle you away? 7 mana to activate. Okay. Brainstorm. Well, those cards are terrible for what I want to do with them. Put back Mana Leak and Expansion Explosion. Play a land. That brings us up to 8. So we can play Narset. Downtick. But I can no longer draw extra cards off of Great Henge. I'll take Expansion Explosion just because we have so much mana. And then I play Gideon and taunt my opponent. So that way they have to attack Gideon and our other Planeswalkers get to survive. The only way this doesn't work is if my opponent has like a beast within, in which case we are very dead. Like extremely ultra dead. My opponent will likely have like a Crater of Behemoth. The good news is they can't play creatures to try and draw into an answer. They have to have an answer in their natural draw step because of Narset. Oh, well, opponent has an Abrupt Decay, so go Anime Narset leaves. We successfully taunt our opponent's creatures. Opponent's probably casting their Beanstalk Giant. Nyxbloom Ancient. Oh my god. We have like 3 Wrath of Gods in this deck. So I hope we find them and fast. Oh man. Please don't kill Gideon pre-combat. Okay. They play Beanstalk Giant. They play Noble Hierarch. They kill our token with Master of the Wild Hunt, I think. Wait, what? How did they kill the knight? They didn't have a wolf. Oh no, the wolf was there. Sorry. They have to attack with everything that can attack, which includes Birds of Paradise. So Gideon's dead. We untap. We draw Wrath of God. Okay. We lose out on Golos by doing this, but it's definitely correct. Do we do anything first before we Wrath? My opponent doesn't have any on-death triggers as far as I know. Yeah, I think we just cast a Wrath. Wipe away the board. Alright. Technically could have brainstormed first, but I was actually thinking I was going to Fate Seal my opponent. I'm going to put back Expansion Explosion and Lava Coil. We'll play Plains, Teferi, and I'm going to bounce the Great Henge. I can recast that. We have access to a Bone Crusher Giant. Oh shoot, turn off auto yields. They have a man land. Alright, they animate the man land. Go to combat. It attacks Teferi. So stomp the Hissing Quagmire. Interesting how I had to tap my already tapped land to do that, huh? Moto, I saw that. And they're just replaying the Great Henge. Yup, and a land. Cool. We untap. We draw Expansion Explosion. Tick up Teferi. Brainstorm with Jace. Put back land, Lava Coil, play a mountain, play Sorin, make a vampire, cast a Bone Crusher Giant, and pass the turn. Now we have instant speed Deafening Clarion if we really need it. Opponent plays a Godless Shrine. We untap, we draw a Lava Coil, tick up Teferi, brainstorm with Jace. Oh, big Sorin. So put back Mountain, put back Lava Coil, play Scalding Tarn, fetch with Scalding Tarn, get a Mountain, play Big Sorin, uptick Big Sorin, hit Teferi, play Teferi, loot. It's still Lava Coil. At this point, we're not going to draw a bunch of extra cards or anything. Give our guys 1-0 and lifelink, and attack. 5 active Planeswalkers. Do I hear 6 active Planeswalkers? Oh, this guy could be activated at instant speed. I hit turn off auto yields. On a hard cast, say search for tomorrow. Our opponent has a lot of lands. 14 to be exact. Extinction Event. Alright, so they probably name Odd. Yup, there goes the Bone Crusher Giant. And they are out of cards. Let's loot. Forked Bolt, that goes to face. Goodbye, Lava Coil. Untap. We draw Plains. Play a Plains. Animate Colonnade. Uptick Sorin. Uptick Sorin. Other Sorin. Uptick Teferi. Loot with other Teferi. Discard Forked Bolt. Alright, we're gonna kill our opponent. I could play the 6th Planeswalker, but oh man. It is technically correct to kill your opponent as fast as possible, especially in game 1, because they could learn what other threats you have and really make your day hell, so... If it was, I don't know, game 2, and we were winning, maybe. I can't believe we played 5 active Planeswalkers, and we're just, like, ticking all of them up. That was dirty. Literal definition of drunk with power right now. It was extremely disgusting. I have no idea what any of my opponents were picking during that draft. I saw a complete lack of green cards other than literal 5-color Niv Mizzet, and I guess Abrupt Decay. Nobody was in black-green, but, like, what other, like, archetypes exist? There's, like, mono-red, mono-green, white weenie, and I guess was that the rest of the, like, everybody was in monocolor and nobody wanted any of the fixing? I would love to see what all of my opponents drafted. There's one thing that's like I wish I was playing in a pod because this deck would be crazy. Alright, we have a Planeswalker, a turn 1 play, a Bone Crusher Giant, and an approach. And our Planeswalker gets us to that approach very quickly. I mean, I guess after we cast it, theoretically, but... The only way this hand would be better is if we were on the play. Alright, our opponent mulliganed and started tap land, so I guess they're not doing anything very quickly. We shall start with our own tap land, pass the turn. Okay, opponent plays a forest. Far Seeks. Getting a Godless Shrine. So we untap. We draw Dreadbore. Play Scalding Tarn, pass the turn. If our opponent plays something that Bone Crusher Giant's Stomp can't kill, we're going to fetch the Triome and probably end up Dreadboring it. If they play something small or with 2 toughness that we can kill with Bone Crusher, that's obviously the play. Okay, we're going to have to Dreadbore that. So fetch with Scalding Tarn, get our Triome. Untap. We draw Wrath of God, which is tempting here, but Dreadbore the Master, because I don't want that to get out of hand. Alright, pick your poison, opponent. That's a tough choice. I would take Approach if my hand had absolutely no threats at all. They take Teferi. Okay. So we draw Ashiok, Nightmare Muse. Play an island, pass the turn. We're still needing to leave up Stomp here. Ashiok being our next play is quite good. Especially if my opponent does not play a creature this turn. If they just play like a Hedron Archive or something. Ah, yes. That thing I said. A 4-mana artifact spell that adds 2 mana. Hedron Archive. So we untap. We draw a swamp. Play a swamp. Play Ashiok. And because this is an Everflowing Chalice, I'm unsummoning it now. My opponent should not have any hasty creatures unless they have the Questing Beast. Us setting them back 2 mana and making them exile a card from their hand is pretty brutal. Okay, they exile Noble Hierarch. Alright. Kodama's Reach. So they get a forest tapped and then play a forest out of hand. Then they play Everflowing Chalice on 1. 2 cards left in my opponent's hand. We draw Sorin. Play a Plains. Uptick, make a Nightmare. Play Sorin. Downtick, make a Vampire. And pass turn, leaving up Stomp. It's Woodfall Primus? Grave Titan. Well, it's a good thing we have Wrath of God. That's kind of a one-and-done answer to Grave Titan. So untap, draw Jace. Uptick Sorin. Go to combat. Attack for 6 with lifelink. Make our opponent exile the top 2 cards of their library. The Elder Spell. Oh man. The perfect counter and fine finality. So, opponent blocks down the Nightmare. Decides to use the tokens to do it. Okay, doesn't really make a difference because we're wrathing, but they know we have burn spells, so that is an intelligence switch. Okay. Second main. Wrath of God. Uptick Ashiok. Pass the turn, leave up Stomp. Opponent plays a Swamp. 5 mana for a Doom Whisperer, which is a little bit of a problem. Then my opponent plays the Great Henge. Okay. The only reason they can do that is because it does reduce the cost of Doom Whisperer. So we have the option of down-ticking Ashiok and exiling any non-land permanent they own. Gideon. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make them exile the Great Henge so they can't just draw a bunch of cards and dig themselves out of this. And I'm going to play Jace and unsummon Doom Whisperer. So they're surveilling so that whatever they leave on top is going to get exiled by this Nightmare. Okay. So then we play Jace the Mind Sculptor. Planeswalker number 3 for this game. Downtick, bouncing Doom Whisperer. Uptick Sorin. Go to combat. attack for 3, and exile the 2 cards our opponent left on top, which was O-Stone and Search for Tomorrow. O-Stone would do it. We would be pretty sad about an O-Stone. I'm really not sure our opponent could beat us. Nyx Bloom Ancient. Okay. We untap. Draw Realm Cloaked Giant. Make a Nightmare. Bounce Nyx Bloom. Uptick Sorin. Go to combat. Attack for 3. Make our opponent exile 2 cards. Hissing Quagmire and Eternal Witness. Second main. Chad arrives on scene. Makes a knight. Pass the turn. So we have Stomp if they play, like, one of their not big spells in hand. They can only play one or the other. Awesome. Man. That was brutal and awesome. Oh, man. 10 Planeswalkers deck, not dropping a game to green ramp. I'll see you guys in round 2. Alright. Round 2. Here we go. If we're against an aggro opponent, I think this is fine. So we'll keep. Opponent starts Island, Sleight of Hand. Okay, they're probably not aggro. They did mulligan to 6. So start Marsh Flats. Pass the turn. If my opponent plays a threat, we'll Lava Coil, and if they don't, we play Wall of Omens. Simple as that. We will be fetching a Hallowed Fountain, I believe. Triome is also reasonable here. Maybe we should go with Triome. No, we're holding City of Brass. Hallowed Fountain's fine. Hallowed Fountain tapped. Untap. We draw Expansion Explosion. Play a mountain. Play wall. Okay, draw a card. Glacial Fortress. Okay, opponent plays an island, and they have a 3-drop. It's Teferi! The uptick Teferi. We draw a swamp. Play Sacred Foundry, tapped. Pass the turn. Luckily, Teferi doesn't actually affect us that much. Like, Expansion Explosion is not an instant anymore, but that's about it. Most of our deck is just like tap-out control. Alright, opponent plays Chad. So we draw Realm Cloaked Giant. Play a Swamp. Play Sorin. Make a Vampire. Pass the turn. They bounce the Vampire with Teferi. They play a Seachrome Coast tapped. They animate Gideon and swing at Sorin, so Sorin dies. I'd like to draw my Lightning Helix if it resolves to kill Teferi. Okay, so we'll play Glacial Fortress and Ashiok. Hopefully this resolves. Okay, make a Nightmare. Opponent would have to sacrifice Teferi if they want to get rid of the token this turn. And then, even if they did end up connecting with Gideon... Alright, opponent has a Dismember for the token. So our opponent can animate Gideon. We can block Gideon, and we'll only take 2 damage on Ashiok. Okay, opponent plays an island. Upticks Teferi. Not sure what's happening at the moment. Elspeth conquers death. Well, there goes Ashiok. Expansion Explosion is a long way off of killing a Planeswalker. But it might be reasonable to just kill the knight and draw some cards. I think that's what I'm gonna do. Red, red, colorless, colorless, blue, blue. Kill the knight, draw some cards. Dreadbore is good. Dreadbore is an actual answer to Gideon. Even if it does cost 4 mana next turn. Oh man. But Elspeth conquers death, they can just reanimate Gideon. Or they bounce it. Oof. Okay, opponent attacks with Gideon. I'm just gonna chump. Alright, we untap. We draw our own Teferi. So play an island. Alright, we have to do this. Dreadbore Gideon. Oh, Cryptic. I think that's game. Because our opponent is repeatedly playing Elspeth Conquers Death off of Teferi bouncing it. That's disgusting. Alright. I think I have to restart Moto, actually, because I've heard like 9 sound effects, and I'm not seeing anything. Alright, a Consecrated Sphinx. We draw, and our opponent draws 2. We draw Sorin. Yeah, honestly, I think we just concede and we'll restart Moto. I think I will add Doomfall and probably Spell Pierce in this matchup, but let's first restart Moto. Alright, we're back. Spell Pierce in, Doomfall in. I think Deafening Clarion might have a place, but I think it's coming out for now. I might even want to run All Is Dust. I think in the situations it'd be good. It probably would never resolve, but I'm going to drop Lava Coil for Spell Pierce and Deafening Clarion for Doomfall. And we're going to just run it back like that. Alright, I'd love to play first. Yeah, early Teferi, I guess. Alright, here we go. Start Colonnade, pass the turn. Opponent starts Plains Legion's Landing, makes a token. Draw City of Brass, play an island, pass the turn. Opponent plays an island. It's in for 1 with lifelink. And plays an Adanto Vanguard. That's a problem. Play Glacial Fortress. Did not realize my opponent had aggro hands. I'm going to downtick. Well, I could uptick and Teferi would survive, I guess. Because this is 3 and this is 1. I doubt they have anything hasty. Yeah, we'll just uptick. Hopefully, if we draw a Wrath, this is amazing. Although Adanto Vanguard is likely indestructible for the rest of the game. Every time it matters, anyway. Okay. I'm going to cast a Sleight of Hand. Probably looking for a land. They play a Plains. Convoke a Conclave Tribunal. Alright, well, Ashiok Bounce can get us that back. Play a Plains, pass the turn. We do have a Wrath now. Opponent attacks for 4. We untap and draw a Mountain. So we'll play City of Brass. Play an Ashiok. Opponent has a Mana Leak. Okay. Pass the turn. Kind of hoping they'll play out more creatures so that we can cast off more effectively. But it looks like my opponent just has counter spells that they're going to hold up the remainder of this time. So, play Sulphur Falls. I'm going to try and cast a Sorin here. We take a damage. Okay, instead of drawing a card, we're just going to minus him for 1 to kill the life-linking vampire. Okay, pass the turn. Opponent has a Spell Queller to flash in, which is just enough damage to kill Sorin. But he takes the heat off of us for a turn. And our opponent plays a Monastery Mentor. Okay, now is the time for casting off. Okay, they make Adanto Vanguard indestructible. But they only have 1 card left in hand. They get in for 3. Take 3, go to 7. Kind of like for them to play something, honestly. I really hope they don't have another counter spell, because if they counter this approach, we are probably dead meat. Cast Approach of the Second Sun. We gain 7. Play a Sacred Foundry tapped and pass the turn. Opponent plays a Elspeth Sun's Champion, decides they have to race immediately. We untap, draw Hollowed Fountain. Blue, blue, white, play Narset. Downtick Narset. We find Gideon. Take a damage. Play Gideon. Gideon taunts the team. Play a Hollowed Fountain tapped. And Narset should find us Approach to win the game. Our opponent has to have direct removal for Narset or direct removal for Gideon and then attack Narset. Okay, opponent makes some soldiers. Nope, that's not what Gideon says. Yep, there you go. Everybody at Gideon. Gideon goes down to 2. We untap. Draw Wrath of God. Downtick Narset. We get Approach. Gotta hope this works. Nice. Whew. Okay, I kind of want Deafening Clarion because my opponent has fast creatures, and I was totally wrong on the Doomfall angle. So we'll try that. All Is Dust might actually be another reasonable thing in this matchup, but I did not bring it in time. We have a Wrath, we have a Golos, we have an Expansion Explosion. I'm worried this hand doesn't do enough early, but a lot of our hands of 6 are way worse than this. Yeah, I think I'm gonna keep. I really hope my opponent doesn't have another fast hand. We draw a Path, so play a Plains, leave up Path. Okay. Draw Ashiok, play Glacial Fortress, pass the turn. Opponent plays an island. And passes. We draw Marsh Flats, so play Marsh Flats, pass the turn. If my opponent does nothing, we get the Triome. We might have to fetch and shock like Sacred Foundry for expansion. Crack Marsh Flats, get Savai Triome. Draw an island, okay. Play Narset. I imagine my opponent has counter spells or flash threats, and I'm trying to bait them out here. Okay, there's the counter spell. Pass the turn. Okay, opponent plays Plains into a Teferi. Upticks Teferi. We untap. We draw Sulphur Falls. To play Sulphur Falls, attempt to resolve an Ashiok. Bounce Teferi. If we make a token, they would just exile it, and I'm worried that they would keep ticking up Teferi and play like an Elspeth Conquers Death. So we're going to try and like limit the cards in their hand a little bit. Exile Plains. Yep, there it is. Don't really have an answer for that. None of these really do it either. Play Golos. Search with Golos. We're going to get City of Brass. We have all of our colors to activate a Golos. My opponent likely plays Teferi again this turn. Problem is, even if we activate Golos, the whole third mode of Elspeth Conquers Death, or the second mode of Elspeth Conquers Death, prevents us from casting anything we get off of Golos without paying 2 additional mana. Okay, opponent's Faith's Fetters Golos. We draw Lightning Helix. Okay. So pass the turn, I guess. Oh, you can't return your opponent's Planeswalkers, only yours? For some reason, I was thinking of the Eldest Reborn, which is the other 5-mana saga that does very similar things. Ugh. Sorry. So opponent's going to play a Teferi. I think in response, we're just going to shoot them and draw cards. We get our own Teferi. Opponent downticks Teferi to draw. So we untap and attempt to resolve Teferi. If he resolves, we can bounce Faith's Fetters. Opponent's going to make us pay 2. That doesn't change anything. Okay. Play a mountain. We could bounce Golos. You know what? Before we do any of that, let's try Lightning Helix. Just to make sure our opponent's Teferi dies. Yeah, I think I'm a fan of bouncing Golos here. We draw Colonnade. Pass the turn. Left up the wrong mana because we have a path in hand, so hopefully that's not relevant. My opponent is restricted to playing Magic at sorcery speed, though, so... Consecrated Sphinx. Well, on our upkeep, path the Sphinx, so our opponent cannot draw a million cards. Then we draw Spell Pierce. Uptick to Fairy. Kind of just want to play Colonnade, play Golos. This lets us hold up Stomp / Spell Pierce. Though I did tap wrong. We'll get a Olive Fountain. Not paying life. Pass the turn. Okay, opponent plays a Plains. A big Planeswalker would be bad, but not the end of the world, I think. Cryptic Command, they're going to bounce Golos and draw a card. I mean, okay, I'm fine playing 5-mana Rampant Growths over and over. Especially when I can do this. We were not in the same pod, as we both ended up with a Spell Pierce. And we just Spell Pierced a Planeswalker, which feels amazing. Alright, untap. We draw Wrath of God. Play a Swamp. Uptick to Fairy. Play Golos. Tutor out a land. Make it a Sacred Foundry, I guess. And do we want to cast Jace? I kind of want to cast Jace. So play Jace. Opponent scoops. Woo! We're 2-0. 10 Planeswalkers dot deck. Too much value. Crushing opponents. See you guys in round 3. Alright. Round 3. Here we go. I would love to play first. This is no guarantee on a Planeswalker until turn 4. But 4, 5, 6, 7, if we just draw lands, is crazy. I've got a feeling this is probably too slow, though, so we'll mulligan. This is a lot better in a lot of ways. I'm going to put back Expansion Explosion. I kind of am hoping we still draw another land or two. Our fixing has been amazing. Thanks, me. Definitely goes to show, if there's that much fixing going around, take it. Take fixing first. Like, a lot of the cards in this cube are huge bombs, so like... I'd like to draw, well, a land that I could cast Glacial Fortress with this turn, but... I'll play a Sulphur Falls tapped, pass the turn, leave up a white mana for Path to Exile, not a Plains. Our opponent might be mono black. We draw a Forked Bolt. Play a Wall of Omens. Draw a card. It's a Realm Cloaked Giant. Play Glacial Fortress, pass the turn. Always play the land after you play the Wall of Omens, unless you need the Wall of Omens to resolve through a Mana Tithe or something. Alright, opponent plays a Swamp. It's Lily! Opponent ticks up Lily. I think I discard the Giant. Opponent discards Finale of Eternity. We untap. Draw Ashiok. I'm going to main phase path my own wall. And get a Swamp. Pass the turn. No shame in doing that. Opponent plays Kalitas, Trader of Get. Ticks up Lily. I think we just discard Forked Bolt. It's not going to be doing much this game. Opponent discards Collective Brutality. We untap. We draw Triome. Which means we're playing a 4-mana kill spell this turn. And when our opponent inevitably ticks up Lily to 6, we discard Gideon. Which is not what we wanted to do, but... that's the only way... Ashiok's the only way we can reset our opponent's Lily on a timer effectively. Okay, opponent plays a Grey Merchant and drains us for a little bit. Ticks up Lily to 6. Sorry, Chad. Opponent discards an Extinction Event. We untap. We draw Dreadbore. Now, Dreadbore is very interesting. Dreadbore means we can stop Lily permanently. I really hope my opponent does not have another discard spell. Because resolving Ashiok on this board is way more conducive. Okay, opponent hits us for 2, down to 14. And they play a Bitter Blossom. Okay. We draw Approach. Play Ashiok Nightmare Weaver. Uptick Ashiok. Make a Nightmare. Pass the turn. Opponent loses a life, gets a fairy. Then they draw for turn. They play a land. I think worst case this would be like a Grave Titan out of their hand. They do not attack. We untap. We draw an island. So go to combat. Attack for 2. Opponent exiles Liliana the Last Hope and a swamp. So someone was definitely having a good time with mono black. Okay. Uptick Ashiok, make another Nightmare. Play an island, and now we can make a Colonnade to block. That would be quite terrible if my opponent had a instant speed removal spell, which, given their color, they may very well have. When it goes to combat, attacks for 1 in the air. Fire up Colonnade to block. Chupacabra? Wormcoil Engine. Wormcoil Engine's pretty scary. We untap and draw a mountain. So play a mountain, make a token, and I am going to cast Approach here. I don't want my opponent to make me discard it. So Ashiok's going to take a point of damage here. My opponent is going to gain a ton of life. Okay, opponent attacks. Chump with a token just to make them exile cards. Ravenous Chupacabra and another swamp. Ashiok takes 1. Grave Titan. So I think both of our Wraths are in the grave right now, which is incredibly distressing. We draw Marsh Flats, which I do not want to crack. We can cast Chupacabra and Liliana the Last Hope out of their grave. My opponent might have a Wrath. If they do, it's worth attacking to exile 4 cards. Yeah, I think we do that. So go to combat. Attack. Opponent exiles Liliana's Mastery, Murderous Cut, and Read the Bones. Okay, we'll kill a token, I guess. So let's downtick. What do I want to cast? I want to cast Chupacabra, killing Grave Titan. Liliana's Mastery to make blockers, and then Read the Bones. Or I guess Liliana the Last Hope, maybe? No, I think blockers are actually more important. So cast Ravenous Chupacabra, cast Liliana's Mastery, and then cast Read the Bones. Bone Crusher Giant doesn't really help here, so bottom. Draw Mana Leak, Expansion Explosion. Play Mastery, make zombies. Play Chupacabra. Kill Grave Titan. Okay, pass the turn, and Explosion should get us to Approach of the Second Sun, because we didn't play and crack our fetch. So opponent goes to combat. They probably should just swing out, I think. Chump the Wormcoil. Take 2. Opponent plays a Hypnotic Spectre, which we don't care about. Then Explosion. They take damage. We draw cards. Untap. We draw... Doesn't matter. Cast Approach. Whoo! Got there. Alright, versus mono black aggro aggression stacks. I don't know. I think I probably want Spell Pierce over... I'm not actually sure. I think maybe Narset. Yeah, we'll try it like that. Alright, Teferi Time Raveler is good. Dreadbore's fine. Forked Bolt's fine. We don't have any other colors of mana, but our fixing is pretty good. Okay. My opponent starts Swamp. We draw Mountain. Start Mountain. Pass the turn. This could be relevant if we draw a Swamp and our opponent plays something that we need a Dreadbore and not Forked Bolt or something like that. Opponent plays a Bloodghast. Bloodghast is pretty annoying. I don't know if it's worth Forked Bolting right now. Probably is. I'll play Glacial Fortress tapped. Forked Bolt, ping Bloodghast, and our opponent. This prevents them from attacking with it, at least. Okay, opponent reanimates Bloodghast. Plays Liliana, Heretical Healer. Which is another good 3-mana Liliana. So I think I might just play City of Brass and Dreadbore that creature. I could play Teferi and bounce her, force my opponent to attack. But I don't think I can really risk her flipping. Take a damage. Dreadbore Liliana. Pass the turn. Opponent plays a Liliana, makes us discard. Discard a Plains. They attack us for 2. Down to 17. We untap. Draw Path. So, do we play Teferi or do we play Jace? I kind of like Jace, actually. It is unlikely my opponent gets enough damage to completely kill him this turn, especially because I plan on upticking on my opponent. I mean, I guess Brainstorming is probably better. I'm going to uptick on my opponent and see what they're drawing. Okay, we'll let them draw a Swamp. Next turn, Teferi Path is going to be a lot stronger. I'm planning on discarding Golos. Then we can try and Brainstorm into an answer for Liliana. And opponent makes us discard, so we discard Golos. They discard a Swamp. They attack Jace. He goes down to 3. We untap. Play a Scrap Heap Scrounger, and we draw Wrath of God. Alright, Brainstorm. We get Sorin and Deafening Clarion and an island. So Deafening Clarion can sweep both of their creatures for a turn. But they can get them both back relatively quickly. I think we have to play Sorin and downtick, making a vampire. Do we? We can play Sorin, downtick, and leave up Path, which should let Jace survive. So I'm going to put back Wrath, and I'm going to put back Teferi in that order. Play an island. Play Sorin. Make a vampire. Pass the turn. Okay, opponent's going to make a sack instead. So they go to combat. They attack Jace. They attack Sorin. So we got a Path Scrap Heap Scrounger, even though Bloodghast is more annoying. We need to draw the extra cards. Sorin down. Opponent passes. We draw Teferi. Brainstorm. Put back Wrath of God. Deafening Clarion. Play Sulphur Falls. And we'll go ahead and play Teferi, because that's the only way we don't discard our other Planeswalker. Bounce Bloodghast, make them replay it. Pass the turn, we'll discard Deafening Clarion. And next turn, we're going to start drawing so many cards, it's ridiculous. This opponent's going to make us discard. We discard Deafening Clarion. They're casting something. The Elder Spell. Oh, man. Well, we draw Wrath of God. Play our third Planeswalker. And we are going to -4 Sorin down to 2, which will take Liliana to 4 and prevent her from ulting. Then hopefully we can draw more Planeswalkers off of Sorin's ability. Oh man. Okay. Pass the turn. Gaining life also sort of helps. Opponent reads the bones. They leave both on top. That's scary. So they play a land, reanimating Bloodghast. Probably play their other Liliana, I imagine. And then just discard whatever their last card in hand is. I'm trying to think of like what other 3 or less drops they could have. We discard Wrath of God, opponent discards Bitter Blossom. What is your last card that was worse than or that's better than Bitter Blossom? We draw Mana Leak, which is utterly useless. Sorin draws us a Marsh Flats, which we're going to play because we need to be on 7 mana for approach shenanigans, I guess. This Liliana is going to very quickly ruin our day, though. Opponent discards Extinction Event. We discard Mana Leak. They go to combat and they attack Sorin for 2. Sorin goes to 1. Wormcoil Engine is pretty good, I heard. So crack Marsh Flats. We have 2 draws to hit something insanely good. What that is, I'm not sure. Draw Lightning Helix, which does help a little bit. Plus Sorin, revealing Big Chad. Play Big Chad. Taunt our opponent's creatures. And we could Lightning Helix Bloodghast to make sure that both of our walkers survive. But I think we actually have to Lightning Helix Liliana. Just because if we don't, she's going to ult, and it's going to be like, oh, do you want your Planeswalkers in a land, or no lands? This is like MVP Liliana. Gideon effectively acting as a Time Warp here. Hopefully allowing Sorin to actually let me draw a real answer to this somehow. Okay, they smack down Gideon. They play a Crypt Breaker and uptick Liliana. Moto's already lagging so hard again. We draw Spell Pierce, which is no longer useful. Tick up Sorin, see what we draw. It's just a land. Play a Hallowed Fountain tapped. Pass the turn. Oh no. Don't we have a lot of Planeswalkers in this deck or something? 1, 2, 3. Our opponent has fought through 4 Planeswalkers, now 5. They just swing everything at him. We want him to die. So Sorin dies. And they're playing something. They uptick Liliana, and then they play Hypnotic Spectre. We draw Colonnade. Play Colonnade. So the only way we win now, we have to draw exactly Realm Cloaked Giant, cast off killing everything. And then I was going to say have to Colonnade down our opponent's Liliana. But I think we need cast off in order to survive. We can hit for a lot. Does Teferi do it? Teferi can't even loot us into doing it. We phase this out. And they can kill Teferi by swinging everything at him. Oops. We have to plus him too, which means we just discard whatever's on top of our deck. It was a land. Pass the turn. Okay. Opponent goes to combat. Attacks us, attacks us. Attacks Teferi, attacks Teferi. Nope. Leave it back, Crypt Breaker. Changing around their guys. Attacks us, attacks us. Attacks Teferi, and attacks Teferi. Okay, well we have to phase out Wormcoil Engine or we will die a most painful death immediately. Opponent is really struggling with this Declare Attackers. Okay, they figure it out. Phase out Wormcoil. We take damage and Teferi dies. Pretty sure my opponent just ults Liliana though. Then we're in trouble. Or they're going to try and cut us off of all of our colors. Don't know if I agree with that split in particular. But our opponent doesn't really know. Alright, well, we sack the smaller pile. We untap. I was going to say, the worst part about that is, even if I had drawn my last Wrath, Wormcoil Engine was phased out because we had to in order to not die to it. Alright. Run it back. Let's hope we do this a little bit better than that last one, huh? I probably should have kept Narset in. I don't even remember what I took her out for exactly. Alright, well we have a Mana Leak on turn 2, which is probably good. I'm gonna have to play fast, because I only have like 9 minutes left. I actually might have to restart the client. Play a Swamp, pass the turn. I should have played a Mountain, so I'd have Helix this turn as well. Mana Leak, Bitter Blossom. Okay, hang on, I'm restarting the client. Alright, we're back. Kind of. So we just Mana Leaked a Bitter Blossom, and we were trying to pass to our own turn, because Moto is trying really hard to kill me with its own chess clock. Okay, we untap. Draw Sorin, Grim Nemesis, play a Mountain, pass the turn. This lets us Expansion Explosion / Lightning Helix this turn. I'm going to play a Swamp and a Sword of Light and Shadow. Okay. Play Glacial Fortress tapped, pass the turn. Really hoping I can Lightning Helix whatever they play, and we can resolve a Jace. Chupacabra. Eats Lightning. We untap. Draw Wrath of God, which is excellent. Play Jace. Brainstorm. Put back Deafening Clarion, Wrath of God. Play a Mountain, pass the turn. Next turn we can play Sorin. 5 mana. I'm going to play a Grey Merchant. We untap. Draw Wrath of God. Play Plains. Downtick, kill Grey Merchant. Fate Seal our opponent. We will not put a Swamp on the bottom. Pass the turn. I'm going to play 6 mana for a Grave Titan. We untap. Tick up Sorin. Opponent loses 7 life to Approach of the Second Sun. Brainstorm. Put back Spell Pierce, Deafening Clarion. Cast Wrath of God. Play Hallowed Fountain tapped. Pass the turn. Opponent plays a Wormcoil Engine. We untap. We draw Deafening Clarion. Play Ashiok. Unsummon Wormcoil, make them exile a card. Uptick Sorin. Oh, I should have brainstormed first. We'll put back Lava Coil and Approach, I guess, so that way they can't sneak Approach out. It's playing that way wrong, but I don't think it's going to matter. At least hopefully it won't. Opponent, Read the Bones. Expansion. Yeah, I'll copy a Read the Bones. Don't need this Lava Coil. Approach is nice, though. We draw Dreadbore, which is great. Okay. They bottomed both. They play a Scrap Heap Scrounger and a Crypt Breaker. We untap. Play a Plains. Cast Approach. Tick up Sorin. Unsummon Scrounger. Make a Nightmare. Pass the turn. Opponent plays a land. Equips. They can kill Ashiok. They do. Opponent plays a Liliana the Last Hope and replays Scrapheap Scrounger. Taking up on the Nightmare, we untap. We draw a Scalding Tarn. Unsummon Cryptbreaker. Tick up Sorin. Play a Triome. Play Teferi. Unsummon Scrounger. Dreadbore Liliana. Okay, that's probably enough for this turn. We'll pass. Oh, actually, we can attack and exile the top 2 cards of their deck. Profane Command and Hypnotic Spectre. Fantastic. The name of the game is draw approach as fast as we can. Opponent concedes, leaving us with a 3-0 in the 10 Planeswalker deck. 2 more qualifier points, 150 play points. Let's go and open our treasure chest, shall we? We get 20 play points and a Volcano Hellion. Volcano Hellion is a fun way to kill your opponent with Boros Reckoner or the like. Alright, well, you have to have more than 20 life for it to work, though. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this content. I really enjoyed drafting this deck. I still have no idea what my opponents were drafting. I think it was a ton of fun. It shows you how powerful Planeswalkers that can protect themselves are, how powerful being proactive is in Modern Cube. Just curving Planeswalker into Planeswalker into Planeswalker frequently beat our opponents because they just generate so much value. Like, Green Ramp couldn't keep up with the amount of cards we were drawing and playing, and they had a great henge most of the time, and they were drawing extra cards too, and it was a good time. So, anyway, yeah. If you like this video, please leave a like, drop a comment, subscribe to the channel if you're so inclined, and remember that if you want to watch me on Twitch, it's the same username over there as you find me on here. I stream Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Mountain Time, 8 p.m. Eastern, so you can catch me streaming live during those hours usually. And yeah, you're all wonderful human beings, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!